Hey guys, this is Robert with the Recreational Woodworker, and now we are to installing our cabinets. I'm not going to do a full how-to series on installing our cabinets, but I do want to show you some tips and tricks as I go through and do the installation of the uppers. I've already installed the lowers and I showed you kind of how that works, but the uppers are a different story, so I'm wanting to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you tips and tricks as I approach them. It's not going to be heavily edited. I'm not even using my good mic. I just want to show you some of these tips and tricks. That way, whenever you install your cabinets, you can know kind of some errors to avoid and some ways to fix them. So let's walk you through, I guess, tip number one, and then I'll do a blog post with this list itemized, and then I'll do a jump list in the description below so that you can jump to the part of the video that most helps you. Number one, and I'm probably going to forget which order to do all this in, but that doesn't matter, is I hang my cabinets with a cleat system. I've shown you how to do that in other videos. This makes it really easy. Let me see if I can do this with one hand to move this cabinet over and position it. And then you just hang it up there. It's not bolted down at all. That cleat holds it, and it just makes it super easy to hang, and then you just level and shim it from there. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is chamfer your joints. I did a little bit heavier of a chamfer than I wanted, but what it does is no matter what happens, these two joints aren't gonna be perfect. They're not gonna perfectly align. Your house is gonna move over time, pull that out of line. So if it's a defect that can't be hidden, make it a feature. So I add a little chamfer, and I had my router bit set too deep, but once I did it, I was kind of stuck with it. But it adds this little detail at the joints, and it just gives you a slight visual breakup. And we're painting these a solid color, so it'll add just a nice little shadow line right there. Tip number three. So I have my cabinets joined together, and I have them clamped together right here. You want a good level, you want to make sure it's accurate. I've got my bubble where I need it, and so I've clamped them together. A hand plane is phenomenal, because if you look closely, I had to take about a 1/16 off of this face frame, and my tops aren't lining up perfectly. That's okay. You want your cabinets to be level, and you want your joints to be tight. If this is a little bit off, that will completely be hidden with our trim, and by the way we can adjust our doors up and down. So that will never be seen again. So if that's a little bit off, that's okay, but make sure this joint is nice and tight and your cabinet is level. So join your cabinets together one at a time. So I mounted this guy because this guy's position is what really mattered. It's bigger. That's my anchor point. I made sure that was perfect, anchored it to the wall. Then I joined this cabinet to that cabinet. Then I anchored this cabinet to the wall. Same thing here. Join your cabinets to get together, then final anchor on the wall. See, I can now, because this is one unit now, I don't know if you can see that because I'm moving this, but there you go. You can see it move in and out from the wall a little bit. That allows me to position this, make sure I'm still perfectly level this way, and now I've got enough adjustment to make sure I'm perfectly level this way, and it looks like I need to come out from the wall just a hair, so that's super easy. We talked about how you anchor that to the other cabinet before you lock it down. You can see now it's locked down, it's not moving at all. Put a shim back here. There wasn't a stud, so I just took my brad nailer, put a couple nails right here, a little putty and a little paint. We'll cover that perfectly. Then I found my stud with my stud finder. This guy right here, this Franklin Sensors stud finder, is phenomenal. I love it. Not sponsored, but if I can find an affiliate link to it, I'll put it in the description. Then I just transferred my stud lines around. Pencil marks erase, they sand out. So I'm not afraid to mark up my cabinets, and I'm painting inside and out. If you're doing pre-finished interiors or you've already painted your cabinets, then you might want to put some painter's tape and mark on that. I then anchored it here after applying the right amount of shims to make sure this is completely plumb. I then transferred my lines up with my level to run one screw into the cleat and into a stud. That's all I need because my weight is held on the cleat that I glued and stapled on. That is rock solid. Now we need to tackle this wall. This wall I know is gonna need a filler strip, but we always need to remember to pay attention to our oven opening, especially if you're gonna do a microwave here. That means that this cabinet, we can't take hardly anything off of. If we need to scribe something, we have to do the other cabinets or do a filler strip. Tip number 7 is anytime you're hanging uppers, start with the immovable objects. And that is this guy right here. This corner cabinet can only go where that corner cabinet can go. So I am going to move these other cabinets because they're just up there with the cleat right now. And I'm going to get that guy plumb level and bolted down rock solid, and then my other cabinets will be anchored to that. So that's my anchor point. So that's tip number 7. Know your anchor points. Those are your sink, your corners, and a lot of times your oven. The oven isn't as big of an anchor point, but your corners and your sink is most often your anchor point, that those things can't be moved unless you're going to spend big money on your remodel. Tip number 8 is about filler strips. Like I said in the previous one, our oven at this point is immovable, so we need to make sure that everything lines up. You can see I've marked my lines with my laser level, and then I came and put a physical level on there to make sure it's level. And in short, I need this corner right here to line up right there. That's where it needs to be. See, that's about 3/4 of an inch. I also have a plug right there that I need to make sure I'm accounting for. Over here, you notice I put my V-groove in here. So I've got to cut off my V-groove and add material. I've already hung and bolted this guy so you can start with your corners. So we're gonna take this guy off, take off this chamfer, and then add 3/4 of an inch. And so that means I probably need to add about 7/8 of an inch of a filler strip onto this. So let's take it off and get that done. All right, so our filler strip is done and I've got it installed right there. So you can see where I added some actual wood putty to fill in the unevenness, sanded it well, nailed it on, glued it on, added my chamfer with a hand plane, and that's there. If I really wanted to hide this joint, I could add a 1 1/4 inch overlay hinge to better hide that, but that's not bad right there. Tip number 9 is set up near your work. You can see I've got my mobile shop cart set up right here, all with good locking casters. I've got a box of shims. I've got all my hand tools right there that I'm gonna need right there near the work. Then as close as possible to that, I set up just what is basically my multifunction slab. It's made with those micro jig guys, some good sawhorses, vacuum, track saw, table saw, all set up right here. Actually, we'll move that over a little bit when it's time to use it so I have more infeed and outfeed. And then I come over here, just around the corner. So this is the kitchen, back wall. I went ahead and set up my miter saw inside so I can do everything there. The great thing about my miter saw is this track can be put on and off, and then you calibrate it with the bench dogs, and so it's perfect every time. Tip number 10, I want to talk to you about this final cabinet right here. If you look at my pencil lines, that's my stud right there. It's a double stud for the jamb. And then here's my stud right there that the outlet goes to. You can see right there, it's too skinny and it's too skinny. So what do? You need to make sure that it's anchored well. Well, part of it is we're anchoring to our other cabinet, which is anchored to a stud right there. But don't be afraid to add a nailer. And that's tip number 10, add a nailer. You can see I just opened up my wall right here. I tried to be careful so that way I can go back and patch it a little bit easier. And then I took a block of 2x4 and just DIY pocket screwed it into the back, making sure I didn't hit this cord right here. And that allowed me to anchor the cabinet to this guy, making it rock solid. So I could absolutely probably come up with some more tips to give you, but I feel like 10 tips and tricks to installing upper cabinets is a great place to stop. Everybody's got their own tips and tricks on hanging cabinets if they're a cabinet installer. So if you watch this video and I missed something, add it below because we can all learn and improve together, and I would love to hear what you do differently than me that might be a better way than I do it, because I would love to improve if I'm doing something wrong or not as efficient as I could be. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you're curious about this kitchen cabinet series, click the link below in the description. I have a link to the blog post that takes you to our full how to build and install kitchen cabinets course. And we also have a set of plans that you can buy to build your own kitchen cabinets. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.